Now, first of all, we'd like to know something about you. Where are you from, Olin?
I'm from Zurich in Switzerland,
Thank you.
which is the biggest city.
Thank you. And you,
I
Rodrigo?
come from Argentina. Although I live in the capital, I'm from another city in the north of the country.
Are you working or studying at the moment, Rodrigo?
Well, I finished university and I worked while I studied, but now I'm taking kind of a year off and studying a little bit.
And you, Olin?
Well, I haven't been to university yet, but I'm also taking a gap year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you. Do you have much opportunity to travel, Olin?
Yes, luckily I have. I have traveled a lot with my parents. We've seen a lot, but also my school offers a lot of trips around Europe, not to other parts of the world, but that's still a nice opportunity to have.
Mm-hmm. And Rodrigo, how good are you at organising your time?
Oh, that's a good question. I think I'm pretty good, but sometimes I keep putting off things till the end and procrastinating and doing that kind of stuff. I try to set deadlines, but sometimes I find it quite difficult. Yes.
Thank you. Now, in this part of the test, you're going to do something together. Here are some pictures. You have about a minute for this, so don't worry if I interrupt you.
Okay. Well, first I think the first picture looks like a square with some restaurants and people having dinner outside. Is that common in your country?
No, not in Switzerland. It's a little too cold for that. I think it's more typical Italian or Spanish.
Well, that's the reason, because in Argentina we have a very big Italian influence, so we have these kind of restaurants and we have dinner outside, usually in squares or in parks or just next to the road. It's
Well,
quite
I'd love
common.
to have it more often in Switzerland.
Yeah.
How about the second picture?
The second picture, well, it's just, well, I'm just looking at his face and I think he might be Oriental. It's in some place where they're just selling fish, or I don't know, maybe they just fished them and,
Thank you.
well, it's an interesting topic, isn't it? First, hot and cold drinks. Here in Cambridge I've seen these stalls selling or either crepes or another kind of stuff, and I think they're pretty common around the world. Do you think that this picture is quite useful or will catch attention of the readers?
Well, it shows, it represents, I think, the whole fast food economy, which might not be representative for the whole food industry, but it's still a very important aspect of it. Comparing that picture, for example, to picture A, which reflects a whole different atmosphere and a whole different aspect. It also includes more like the service aspect of the food industry that's not just about food.
I agree, because picture B is more fast food, something quickly in the move, whereas picture A is more like enjoying a meal, a social event. So yeah, I think you're absolutely right about it. And how about picture D?
Well, it contrasts picture B because it shows the natural aspect of food, which has become very rare, I think.
Yeah, it is quite difficult to find fair trade products and things like that. But what caught my attention was that picture A and B are about eating, and picture D and C are more about producing food.
Yeah, you're right. I had noticed.
I think it's right. So, and picture C is, do you like fish? Because it's like the first thing that...
Yes, I do. But just as picture D, I think this is something that becomes more rare, because most often now it's big factories producing food and doing fish, but I think that small shops are become become more and more rare. You can't see them that often anymore.
Yeah, that's true. So I would say that if we have to choose like a main picture, I would choose between A or D. Do you agree with me, or do you have another opinion?
Yeah, I think you're right. But I think that picture A combines more aspects than picture D, maybe, because it shows the whole business, not just the production of food, but also how it is served and how
Okay.
people get in contact with it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think picture A is
Thank
better.
you. Can I have the booklet, please? Thank you. Now, in this part of the test, you're each going to talk on your own for about 2 minutes. You need to listen while your partner is speaking because you'll be asked to comment afterwards. Olin, I'm going to give you a card with a question written on it, and I'd like you to tell us what you think. There are also some ideas on the card for you to use if you like. All right?
No, I think it's a really interesting question. Well, of course, it's a very personal question. Well, for me personally, I prefer making my own decisions. Well, obviously I ask other people for their advice, but at the end I think it's very important that you decide on something because you are convinced by it and not because someone else convinced you for that or persuaded you to take something else. Because you always have to be able to stand up to it and to defend your own opinions, and you can only do so if you actually decided to do it by yourself and did the whole thinking process for yourself. Now that I see the recommendations, I see that they contrast education and work. And during education, I suppose that it's much more important to take others' advice, probably from your teachers and from your parents, because they have had more experience than yourself. And sometimes they even know you better, most of all when you're just during puberty. So they might take the more decisions with a better base. In work, it's really important to be a team player and to always take into account many different opinions and not just to try to push forward your own thoughts.
And Rodrigo, generally speaking, do you think you are a decisive person?
Yes, I am. Yeah, I think, although I like to hear some advice, usually from my parents, I like just to ask them and have at least their point of view so I can just gauge what I want to do and myself. Yeah.
How about you, Olin?
No, me personally. Well, if people, my parents always want the best for me, so I always have to take their opinion into account. But at the end, it's still my own decision. Mm-hmm. Nothing is going to change that.
Thank you. Now, Rodrigo, it's your turn to be given if you like. All right?
Okay. So the question is about how much are people's decisions influenced by the media. I think nowadays, since we have television and internet, everything is somehow related to the media and different ways of communication and networks. Mainly the spending habits, as I said here, because since we live in a consumption society and a consumption way of living our society, we like to follow some, I don't know if I would call them rules, but we are somehow influenced by advertisements and ways of advertising. So I think it's very much influenced by media or Facebook, for example. Facebook at the beginning used to be just about talking to people or meeting them or just having fun. But nowadays you enter and the first thing that you see, they're just advertisements or ads about different, I don't know, shampoo or trips or university education. So it's really comprises of a immense variety of things, a really wide range. And about current affairs, when we read the newspapers or we watch television, it's like you have like different point of view. You have left-wing newspapers as opposed to right-wing. You have more central ones. So I think we are always influenced, and it is quite difficult to find yourself with a strong opinion or something, and not being biased by the society. And how much are people's decisions influenced by the media? About entertainment, I think, for example...
Thank you, Rodrigo.
Okay.
And Olim, what kind of decisions need to be made before TV programmes are broadcast to children?
Well, one has to decide whether they are adequate for small children. It always depends on their age, and not just concerning violence, but also other aspects that small children might not be mature enough to think about and to realize what it means.
Do you agree, Rodrigo?
I agree, and also I've noticed that it used to be more controlled but nowadays even you have more strong scenes. You can find stronger scenes in TV just in early hours or in the afternoon, which sometimes it strikes, I think, or catches my attention.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Now, to finish the test, we're going to talk about decisions in general. Nowadays, there are so many products to choose from that it's impossible to choose. To what extent do you agree?
Well, the first thing that came to my mind was when I go to the supermarket just to do some shopping, and you want to buy, I don't know, for example, a product, just say coffee, and you have so many different brands, and you have some of them are fair trade, and other ones are cheaper, and from different countries you have such a big variety. What do you feel the same, or?
I actually feel mostly overwhelmed when I'm in the supermarket. Yeah, no, on the one hand, it's really nice to have this variety and to be able to choose from so many different products, also from different origins, and as you said, fair trade, price. Yeah, but I mostly feel overwhelmed, and for me it's actually a little too much.
Who should decide how taxes are spent? Government ministers or local people?
Wow, that's a good question. I think, I don't know if I can make a decision right now, but on one hand, I think as a inhabitants of a city, we can make our own decisions. But on the other hand, when we vote and we have elections, we choose the people who are going to represent us. So I don't know. I think, what is your opinion about it?
Well, I believe in democracy, so I think it's the local people who should decide what the government does with their own money, because taxes come from the people, so they should be the ones to decide what's going to happen with it.
Yes, but I believe in democracy as well, but democracy also involves choosing some people who are going to represent us in some way, so I find it tricky to decide
you're right.
how to come to terms with that.
It probably depends on how big the population is and in what society you are.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree.
Why do jobs that involve taking difficult decisions appeal to some people?
You want to start?
Okay, I can start. Particularly in my case, I like freedom, so I like taking my own decisions, and I know that if I make a mistake, it's my own fault, and I don't like just being told what I have to do. I prefer to have my space and making my own decisions, basically. And you?
Well, it's also a challenge to take own decisions and not to be dependent on others and to let others control yourself. So every step is a little challenge.
Yeah, I like that idea. I like challenges and I like to push myself a little bit. Yeah.
Thank you. That's the end of the test.
Okay, thank you.